What is up, YouTube? It's your boy Millzy back here for another video. Hometown Commander. Today we're doing another deck tech. This is another one of my personal main decks, a deck that I really enjoy. And I thought it'd be fun to just talk a little bit about the deck. Today we're doing Winota, Joiner of Forces. This deck is a Boros aggro deck. Our goal here is to make either non-human creature tokens or non-human creatures, attack with them and get humans from the top of our deck, and generally win via a nice big combat. This is a deck that I really enjoy because it's very aggressive. And if you can set the deck up right, you can win quickly and really most of the time kind of get underneath a lot of those bigger combo decks that you see running around and hopefully beat them before they can get their main strategies online. So let's go through the deck. I have it piled up here. We're going to talk about it and just have some fun. So first off, we have Goblin Rebel Master. This is a card that is going to make us Goblin tokens, which are going to trigger Winota's ability. The good part is that they come in at the beginning of combat, so we can attack with the Goblin tokens, which is basically just going to net us another Winota trigger. Next up, we have Warboss, God of Victory. This is a card that's just going to make attacking for us even better. Creatures control that menace, and then preventing all that damage, being dealt to our attacking creatures. So it's going to almost let us attack with no risk of anything. It's going to get around Death Touch. It's going to get around all that kind of stuff. It'll actually also get around our opponent's creatures having a lifelink, which is really good as well. Next up, we got Kiki Jiki. Who doesn't love Kiki Jiki? Kiki Jiki is in here for the multiple extra combat combos that we have in here. So Jiki is definitely a piece of getting all those infinite combats on one turn, and once we can get every human out of our deck, because when they come down they have indestructible, I mean the game's going to be over at that point. Next up, we have Anax, Hardened in the Forge. This is a non-human, which is why it's in there, but it also makes satyrs when our other non-token creature dies. So if Winota dies or any of our other humans die, we're going to get the satyrs, who are then going to trigger Winota. Next up, we have Legion Warboss. Same thing as Rebel Master. We're making those Goblin tokens, and when we attack with the Goblin tokens, we're going to get some bonuses. Next up, we have Archon of Emiria. This is in here really to try to tax our opponents just a little bit. I'm not playing a ton of stacks in this deck. I'm playing just a couple cards, but they're in there to try to not stop our opponents from doing their strategy, but really to ensure that once we're ahead, we stay ahead. I think Archon of Emiria is going to shut a lot of things down. We're not going to play very many spells because once we start attacking, we're going to have plenty of creatures on board to attack, and those non-basic lands coming in tapped is never a bad thing. We got Dockside. Dockside is in here just to give us some more mana, and of course it itself counts for Winota to give us a human. Next up, we have Krenko, 10th Street Kingpin. Same thing, when it attacks, you put a counter on it, make some Goblin creature tokens, and then the next turn, those Goblin creature tokens are going to be able to attack and get us some triggers. Next up, we have Legion Loyalist. One of the only non-human creatures in the deck for cheap that I really want to play, but if it and at least two other creatures attack, so that's on declaration. Creatures you control get first strike and trample, which is going to be huge in this deck. We are going to, when we swing out, put a lot of humans down, hopefully, and make that trample and first strike a lot better. And not being able to be blocked by creature tokens isn't bad. It's not going to happen most of the time, but it's not a bad bonus. One of our favorite extra combat tricks here is going to be Combat Celebrant. This plus Kiki Jiki is going to get us endless combats, as well as really hurt our opponent. Next up, we have Rick, Steadfast Leader, a card that I wasn't sure would fit in here, but I think with how many humans we care about putting down, giving them +2/+2, first strike and lifelink or first strike and vigilance is going to be really good. Now, they won't get the vigilance if we choose that the turn they come down off of her ability, but they would every turn after that. We have Thalia, Garden of Thraben. Again, just a little bit of tax for our opponents. Not a bad thing to play in the first few turns if we can have it. Not necessarily something we want to get off the top if we can avoid it, but certainly not bad. We have Darian, King of Kelder. This is in here to give us those tokens. Whenever you're dealt damage, you create that many 1/1 white soldier creature tokens. Those are not humans, so if we can take just a little bit of damage, it's just going to make the next attack even better. We have Silverwing Squadron. Another one of our humans we can go get. Power and toughness equal to the number of creatures you control, which is huge. And whenever it attacks, you get a number of 2/2 white knight creature tokens equal to the number of opponents you have. Now, unfortunately, those knights won't be able to attack the turn this attacks, but it's just going to make it even bigger. And then, of course, off our other creatures attacking, hopefully we get more humans down and make this even bigger and even bigger. Mirage Phalanx, this is one of our targets to make some infinite combats. You can soulbound this with Combat Celebrant or a few other extra of those guys in here we have, and just continue to make copies and copies of it and continue going on those infinite combats. We have Bruce Tarl, definitely in here to give us some advantage when attacking. Double Strike and Lifelink is great. We have Evangel of Heliod. When this comes in, it's going to give us 1/1 soldier tokens for our devotion to white, which most of the time is going to be a good amount. We're playing Drannith Magistrate, again, one of those little kind of tax pieces we have in here to try to slow our opponents down once we're ahead. Zealous Conscripts. This is definitely a card that is going to combo with a couple other things. At the worst case, it gets control of our opponent's creature. On the best case, this can work with other cards to create infinite creatures. We have Geist on our Monk, same thing when it comes in, it's going to make us tokens. We have Loyal Apprentice, beginning of combat on our turn. If we control our commander, we get a 1/1, and it has haste. So same thing, this is going to come in, hopefully in those beginning turns, get us one of those tokens. We've got Magus of the Moon. This is kind of a blood moon, but on a creature. This is in here because just trying to shut our other decks down. Again, not playing the stacks route, but playing the closing the game by shutting our opponents down so we can win. We've got Blade Historian coming in here, giving all our creatures double strike. You have Audric. When you attack with it on your declaration, you can basically choose that your opponents aren't going to block. This plus one of our infinite combat, combos is basically going to win us the game. Then we have Gold Knight Commander. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, creatures get +1/+1 till end of turn. This is really great if we can hit it off the first of many Winota triggers, because then every creature that comes in after that is just going to buff our creatures. And Grass Marauders is definitely one of those creatures that's going to help us win, doubling the amount of damage that our permanents deal. Riona is a new card in here. At the beginning of combat on your turn, create X tokens that are a copy of another target creature you control, where X is X+1 the number of instant sorcery spells you've cast this turn. This is a really interesting piece with some of our cards that with that do infinite comments. Combat Celebrant isn't legendary, so we can make copies of it and that kind of thing. So Riona is a way to do that. Plus, she's a human, so she definitely helps us. Superior Recruiter. This goes and helps us get the Kiki Jikis, the Docksides, the things like that, depending on what we needed as a human. So it's going to come down off of Winota. We've got Lena. Come down, make us the tokens, and then we can sack it to give everything less than it indestructible, give all our tokens indestructible if we need to. Adeline is going to make us tokens every time we attack. Unfortunately, the tokens won't count for the Winota trigger, but because we're putting creatures in, Adeline's just going to get huge. Knight Captain of Eos, same thing, comes in, get us tokens, and the best part is we can pay that white and sacrifice a soldier and prevent all combat damage that would be out this turn. This is really good if we take a big swing, we can leave the mana open and protect ourselves on the back end. A Village Ballbringer, this is in here so that when it comes in, we can untap. Really prepare for any defense if that happens. Tajik is going to prevent all non-combat damage to be dealt to other creatures you control. This is going to get around Blasphemous Act, a lot of those things that are going to be really important if your opponents are playing Burn and that kind of thing. Tajik's going to help you survive that. We're playing Brutal Cathar because who doesn't love putting a human in and just nuking something during combat? This card has definitely helped me take out some blockers that definitely would have ruined attacks or can even get an opponent's commander off the battlefield at least. Next for our sorceries, we're going to have a good mix of creating tokens here. So we got Martial Coup, for 4 or less, this is going to get you soldiers. For 5 or more, you destroy all other creatures but the soldiers. This is really great if you need to board wipe, because we also get the benefit of having tokens after. We have a Ganjo Uprising from the new Kamigawa. I think this is a really fun one-sided win con in Winota. If we make enough soldiers, enough samurais, and we attack with Winota out, we're going to be getting so many Winota triggers, and those samurais are going to be tough to block because they're going to get Menace, which is going to be huge. We've got Jessica's Will. Of course, Jessica's Will is a very good red spell. Gives us red mana. This deck, of course, being in red and white, you don't have access to a ton of mana, but this is one of those cards that's definitely going to help us get there. Exiling the top 3 and playing them is never bad if we have access to a lot of it. We have Mana Geyser, same thing, getting us a bunch of red mana to use on our turn. A lot of our permanents are red, with just a little bit of white, so that red mana is going to go a long way. We've got Whirling Outburst giving us goblin tokens. We've got Krenko's Command giving us goblin tokens. These guys are great on turn 2 and 3 before we play Winota, so that way we have those goblins to attack with and get the triggers. Faithless Looting, definitely there to get to some draw. Anything we can do to get a couple more cards and get some lands or get some small creatures to play is going to be really good. Winds of Abandon, one of my favorite board wipes, especially because it's one-sided. Going to exile everything your opponents control and give them basic lands. This can definitely pave the way for an awesome attack. And then Dragon Fodder. So we're playing lots of ways to get those goblin tokens. For instance, we have Flawless Maneuver to protect our creatures. Raise the Alarm to get us some soldiers. Enlightened Tutor. This is going to go get us a couple of the important enchantments we have in the deck. Teferi's Protection, always good to have to protect ourselves if we can. Chaos Warp can get rid of a pesky permanent if we need to. Secure the Waste, one of my favorite instances in this deck, allows us to make tokens at somebody else's end step. That way we can attack with them on our turn. Wear and Tear, really good piece of removal in red-white. Can get rid of a pesky artifact and enchantment at the same time. And Swords to Plowshares, just a great card to get rid of a creature. And since we don't have a ton of mana, this single target removal is going to do well for us. And we have one Planeswalker, Chandra. Chandra just makes those elemental tokens for pretty cheap and can be done every turn. So that's going to keep farming triggers for Winota. Our enchantments, we're playing one Deafening Silence. Again, another thing here to just hopefully shut our opponents down so we can get that last turn or two to just push in for the win. Breath of the Fury. This is an enchantment that can win a game if you know where to put it. It says whenever enchanting creature deals combat damage to a player, sacrifice it and attach it to another creature you control. If you do, untap all creatures you control, and after this phase, there's an additional combat phase. If we can put this on a creature that has trample or that has flying or an evasion somehow, or if we can get some creatures through, we're going to be able to win the game with those endless combats, probably, with how much searching we can do off anything. Legion's Landing in here to get us that 1/1 token, and then on the backside it'll create tokens for us, which is just great for our strategy. Splinter Twin. Splinter Twin is going to be able to Splinter Twin is there to give us infinite creatures of a certain type, whether that's a Kiki Cheeky or other creatures that are going to give us endless combat. This is something that is really, really good and combines with a lot of other things to continually set us up for one of those infinite combos. We have Blind Obedience, just try to stop our opponents from having blockers. Underworld Breach, really huge to try to play some of those creature creating sorceries if we need to. We can also get enchantments and artifacts back. We can also get creatures back. So Underworld Breach is really good. High cost in what you have to give up from your graveyard, but if you need the right thing, it's really good. Authority of the Consul is one of my favorite enchantments. Opponent's creatures come in tapped and you gain a life, which is never bad. And then Reconnaissance basically gives our creatures vigilance for 1 mana. Very good in a deck like this where you need to be swinging out with everything to get all your abilities. You can then literally untap everything that came down, and you're going to be able to continually, attack with little to no downside. This is also going to come in really handy with a Kiki Jiki or a Combat Celebrant if they're attacking, and we can untap them and hopefully use them to use their effects to kind of combo off. Artifacts, we got Soul Ring, always important. Talisman of Conviction, Boros Signet. Again, we need some of these artifacts to come down early to ramp us up. We have Throne of the God Pharaoh. This is in here mainly because we're going to be attacking with so many things, so many tokens. And otherwise, beginning the end step, each opponent loses life equal to the number of tap creatures you control. Hopefully we're gonna have a ton of tap tokens. We're gonna have a ton of, all of our humans that come in are gonna be tapped. I've seen this card deal 15 damage at an end step, which on a turn where you're already doing a pretty big attack, it's gonna hopefully be lethal. We have Arcane Signet. Oketra's Monument, it's one of my favorites here. White creatures, spells you cast cost 1 less cast. That means Winota can come down for 1 cheaper. It says whenever you cast a creature spell, create a 1/1 white warrior creature token. If we can take this down turn 3, it's going to give us token when Winota comes out, or a lot of our other things come out. And to be honest, I think it really just helps. You know, if we get stuck with some humans in our hand, this is going to make it cheaper to play them. Next up, we're getting into our lands. First off, we have Soken'Zan from the new set. Hopefully, we have enough legendary creatures after Winoting to be able to get a couple 1/1 spirits for just 1 single red mana, and if not, comes in untapped. Field Passage is going to be in there to search out some of our basics and get us some color fixing if we need it. Urza Saga is going to give us that mana. It gives us a token there on the second one that's a non-human, and on that third allows us to go get a Soul Ring in this deck. Spectator Seeding, good untapped red-white land. We play the Pathway because sometimes it's good to be able to have either if we need it. Sundown Pass is going to come in untapped most of the time. Rugged Prairie, I really love the filter lands, and I think they're really worth playing in a 2-color deck because you can put any color in and get the others. Den of the Bugbear is great because it becomes a non-human creature, which means we can get the trigger off of Winota if we have the spare mana. Also, a thing to note, if you have enough mana through any other source, Den of the Bugbear that second ability can be done multiple times, and you will get a token for each time you do it. Sunbaked Canyon. Blink Malefics is going to become a 1/1 artifact creature with flying until end of turn. Just gives us another trigger for Winota for really cheap if we have it. Battlefield Forge, Sacred Foundry. Command Tower, of course, important in any deck where we're playing more than 1 color. Care Keep allows us to tap it to make a 0/1 token. Again, Winota doesn't care whether the non-human creature does damage, it just cares whether it attacks. If we can make an 0/1 and attack with it, whether it dies or not, we still get the trigger. Clifftop Retreat. We're playing Castle Embreth. I rarely ever use it, but it is a way to pump your creatures if need be. Fury Calm Snarl. Mishra's Factory for 1 mana, it becomes a 2/2. That's going to be absolutely killer with Winota to give us a bunch of triggers. We're playing 4, 8, 10 white, and 5 red. I'm playing more white because generally the white is a little bit more prevalent, but I'm actually seeing now that I've showing the deck to you guys that I actually might need to take out a few of those plains for some mountains. When I'm looking through the list, it definitely looks like we have a lot more red sources, but I think part of it's having the Jessica's Will and things like that to net us red mana. And the other thing I want to do in this series is, so I always keep some proxies in here of cards to try in the future. So I'm just going to go through what I have that I consider that didn't make the list. We have Delena. I think Delena can be really huge to create us copies of things, and especially because those things can be legendary, which is huge. Again, if we can go infinite off this, just more attackers. We have Sneak Attack. Sneak Attack looks kind of fun. Being able to drop creatures' hints from our hand could be good. I just haven't seen the best scenario for it. We have Fable of the Mirror Breaker, which is going to flip into the second copy of Kiki Jiki. I think this one makes it in there eventually. I'm just not sure what slot it goes into. Restoration of Viganjo, it's ramp, and it also on the backside makes us spirit tokens. I just worry that it's a little too expensive and that it might not be quick enough. And then Lizard's Blades, it's a non-human. It can give Winota or somebody else double strike. And I think it could be good. So these are the 5 cards that I'm going to be kind of thinking about as I'm playing through Winota over the next few months before Capenna comes out, and just see if there's something that would be, I don't know, good to put in the deck or good to try. But thank you guys so much for watching my deck tech for Winota. The list is going to be down in the description in my personal Moxfield so you guys can see it, as well as if you're watching this video further after it comes out, you will be able to see the current deck list. Again, my goal for doing these decks is so that when the new sets come out, Capenna and forward, I can show you guys what changes I'm making to my main decks, what stuff I'm considering, and maybe if Winota is something that interests you, you can use my list to test and see if this is something you enjoy. If you like aggressive decks, if you like being very, very pedal to the metal and aggressive. I think this is a deck that'll be good for you. If you are interested in playing more of the stacks route, there are some great lists out there as you get up towards the CDH level of Winota that include a lot more stacks pieces. But again, I wanted the full out aggressive, pedal to the metal, try to win by turn 6 or 7, really try to force your attacks into the board and kind of take advantage of people not being set up yet. You know, most of the time Commander people take until turn 5 or 6 to really set up. This deck hopes to take advantage of that, push our advantage through, and hopefully we can knock out the players that we're the most worried about before they can set up, and then we can deal with the rest of the table from there. Well, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed my Winota deck list, and I will catch you guys next time.